Hello, and welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading 1 Samuel chapter 4. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Ephek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. And when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us. That is, when it cometh among us, that it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh, that they might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, What meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is come into the camp. And they said, Woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hands of these mighty gods? These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent, and with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, What meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim so that he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, What is there done, my son? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off his seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. For he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas his wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the woman that stood by her said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. Summarizing 1 Samuel chapter 4, this chapter begins letting us know that the word of Samuel has come to all of Israel. So the last prophecy that we get from God to Samuel is in chapter 3, verse 11 through 14. God says that he will perform against Eli all things concerning his house because of how his sons were behaving and how he did not intervene. Before that, this confirms the prophecy given by a man of God in 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 27 through 36. A man of God came to Eli and told him, Thus saith the Lord, and told him about his wayward sons, and that Eli knew about this and failed to do anything. So these were twice that this was confirmed. And the man in chapter 2 told Eli both of his sons were going to die on the same day. So the two things I wanted to point out about that is, one, the confirmation. There's a confirmation provided for that prophecy. This was coming from two different sources. Also, we should note the frequency of prophecies, the frequency that in the Bible up till this point, I spit a little bit, up until this point, how many prophecies have been given? Has it been on a daily basis or on a basis where it's frequent? Because this is going to help us discern when we see prophecies, okay, I'm just not, I am being a little tongue in cheek, but does God give prophecies every day in the Bible so far? Okay. The other thing that I want to mention, um, God was not close enough to Eli, even though Eli is a priest. He holds a position in the church. His two sons hold positions in church, but God was not close enough to Eli to talk to him directly. We already saw that when Hannah was praying, Eli could not hear from God well enough to know that this woman was sad and not drunk. He assumed she was drunk. And on top of assuming, he didn't have the uh, mindset, I don't know, the experience to inquire and ask her, are you drunk? What's wrong? So that's the first time. The second time we see him, the prophecies are being told to Eli through two different people. First, a man of God who's unnamed in chapter 2, and then through a child in chapter 3. So just the priest that works in God's house, that is his status. God doesn't even talk to him directly. He's talking to him through other people and through a child. So the word of Samuel came to all of Israel, and it's time for Israel to battle the Philistines. The Philistines camp at Ephek, and Israel camps at Ebenezer. So the Philistines go to war, and they are brutally defeating Israel. 4,000 men die in verse 2, the second verse of this chapter. So the elders of Israel decide, let's get the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh because it might save us. So the Ark of the Covenant in Exodus chapter 25, the purpose was one of the holy items, and the ark was meant to hold the testimony. So in Exodus 25, there were several items that were constructed that were supposed to be God's holy items to go in his tabernacle. By the time we get to Exodus 31, God gives Moses two tablets of testimony. The first two tablets Moses broke because he was angry that Israel was worshiping the calf. So by Exodus 31, God gives Moses two new tablets, or he has to cut the tablets himself, but God writes on them. So this ark that was given to Moses, it's been kept by Israel. So now these people are in a war with the Philistines. The Philistines are beating them down badly. Thousands of Israelites have died. So their solution is, let's go and get this ark because the ark will help us win. They were happy about it, a little bit cocky even, because in verse 5, Israel gave a mighty shout when they saw that the covenant was there. So the Philistines heard the noise, and they were afraid. They heard the noise. I'm sorry. Why did that happen? Why did I get a piece of hair in my mouth? That's like why I like to wear my hair in locks, because if they're in locks, it's harder for a strand of hair to get on my lip gloss. That's my number one complaint when it's straight. It's like the wind will blow and it'll stick to my lips. It's like, I don't like this. If you make them light enough, your hair will be so light that like the wind will still blow them. You can still do a hair flip. All of it. Okay, so Israel is getting beaten down. So their solution is, let's get the Ark of the Covenant. They kept the Ark of the Covenant from Exodus 25 when it was given, when Moses instructed the Israelites during his rulership when he was still living. They still have it. Israel still has it. So after Israel went to Shiloh, the refuge city, got the tabernacle, or got the Ark of the Covenant, I'm sorry. They got the Ark of the Covenant. And now they're rejoicing because they think it's going to help them win. The Philistines even remember that these are the gods who struck the Egyptians. So Moses has been dead for years. Joshua's been dead for years. This tale of the Egyptians is still enough to terrify anyone who goes up against Israel. It's really powerful. Philistines are so terrified. They've already won because they've already beaten Israel badly. Okay? In verse 9, though, they're still saying, like, take courage and be men, lest you become slaves to the Hebrews as they have been to you. This is another, verse 9 is another, let's just point this out, okay? The Philistines are already winning. They are already demonstrating capability. They are in power over Israel right now. They have a fear, though, that Israel will change this power dynamic and make the Philistines switch places with them. So instead of the Philistines being in power, the Israelites will be in power and they will enslave the Philistines. This is the same logic that the Egyptians had when Israel was enslaved there. The Egyptians saw that Israel was capable and there were many of them. And they said, you know what, we should go ahead and enslave them so that they don't enslave us. So this is the second time we see a power dynamic that is very skewed with one group of people in power who are terrified that the people that they have power over will replace them and subjugate them. So that's something to pay attention to in verse 9. But even after Israel got the ark and the Philistines were scared, they still defeated Israel. They killed 30,000 Israelites and took the Ark of the Covenant, and Eli or Hophni and Phinehas were dead. Ooh, the agony of defeat. So then a man from Benjamin ran. He told the people in the city about what happened. Eli heard the cry of the people in the city. He asked the man what was wrong. And the man, we learn in 15 that Eli was 98 and blind. And then the man just told Eli, yeah, the battle was terrible. Israel had to flee. Uh, Hophni and Phinehas are dead, and the ark of God was captured. Eli was so devastated that he fell backward, broke his neck, and died. We also learn in verse 18 that Eli had judged Israel for 40 years. We haven't seen a judge in Israel since Judges chapter 16 with Samson, Judges 17. Samson was the last judge so far. After that, there were no judges. Then we heard about Ruth. Now we're here. Israel died. Not Israel. Eli died, but he had judged Israel for 40 years. Eli's daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant. When she heard this news that the ark was captured, her father-in-law was dead, and her husband was dead, she went into labor. And it says in verse 20, and about the time of her death, the woman attending to her said, don't be afraid, you bore a son. She didn't answer, but she named the child Ichabod, saying, the glory has departed from Israel. So Eli died, his two sons died, his son's wife died, and the ark is captured by the Philistines. And Israel were terribly, terribly defeated. 34,000 men killed. And after they got the Ark of the Covenant, 30,000 men. They already lost 4,000. After they got the covenant that they thought was going to help them, they were utterly defeated. One thing that made me, I don't want to say smile, but it confirmed how I feel about my relationship with God. Seeing that they did something, they went and they got the Ark of the Covenant, thinking that that was going to help them, but the status of their heart was not correct. They didn't make any sacrifices. They didn't honor God. They didn't repent for anything. They just thought if they got the Ark of the Covenant after not having any kind of relationship with God, that was going to save them. And that's what I mean by performative piety. It's not It's a performance. It's you treat God like a genie. You don't want to have a relationship with him. You don't want to get to know his word. You don't want to get to know him. You don't really want to change the things in your heart. You don't really want to work on any of that stuff to be pure. You just want to use God for the clout that it brings you. You want to use God when it benefits you. And God truly knows the difference. He you can't fool God. I know that. That's why you don't have to I don't have to make a performance out of anything. I don't have to remove and change anything, because God already knows. So even changing it, he would know why I'm changing it. He would see it's not sincere, and I still wouldn't get any credit for it. So thank you for clicking on the video. Thank you for clicking on the video. I love you. Have a wonderful day.